Hey everybody, pro vlogger tip number one. If you're going to climb a steep hill in cold weather and at the top you plan to shoot a video, take a hanky. So, it has come to my attention, I've known it for a while, but it's been brought back to my attention that when I'm thinking about how technology is likely to transform society and our lives in the near term, I focus mostly on information technology, specifically machine learning and training of algorithms with lots and lots of data. Data typically gathered, I suppose is the most value-neutral term, accumulated, amassed by corporations from people like us, from doing things like I've just done, which is to say, with my phone in my pocket, walked about half mile or so from my house up a steep hill. I'm not wearing a Fitbit, so nobody has my my heart rate or anything like that. I did get winded climbing that hill, but it has come to my attention that I focus probably too much on that and not enough on biotechnology. I was watching, or actually listening to, as I played Minecraft, and popping over, when a slide sounded interesting or a video clip sounded interesting. But listening to, and I don't remember the presenter's name, but he was presenting for Singularity University, and might have been in Germany, it wasn't in the US, talking about, there's a company, what is their name? I'll put it up on screen. And they have this battery of tests that consists of an MRI scan, a microbiome scan, and a genome scan. And if you undergo these three screenings that this company has put together, 20% of the people who undergo these screenings uncover some actionable medical need, which is to say they have an illness of some kind that hasn't presented symptoms yet, but these tests reveal it. Well, we should all do that, right? Well, sort of yes and no. It costs between $25,000 and $50,000 for this series of screenings. And, this is for a 1 in 5 chance of bringing to your attention some incipient medical need that you might have, which either will never really give you any trouble or will eventually present symptoms and drive you to the doctor, for relief of those symptoms. Well, he talked about the prospect of the price of these tests coming down. I don't really see it happening. Not anytime soon, not under our current economic and legal regime. Maybe elsewhere, maybe you'll be able to fly to Costa Rica and get it done for, $300 or something. But not here, because the cost of production doesn't determine the cost of the product, and the cost of the research is growing exponentially. It's growing like, the transistor density on microchips used to grow. Why? Because we live in a very litigious society, and everybody's got to pay some sort of, insurance premium in case they get sued. Everybody. Everybody. So we have these enormously expensive medical procedures, which are great. They could save lives for the people who can either afford them or who will convince their insurance companies to cover them. But, for people like me, I grew up basically middle class. My parents were clearly, they came from humble working class backgrounds, but in the post-World War II years, just about anybody who wanted to could climb into the lower middle class. And so both my parents did. And I was raised in suburbia with middle-class values, and it was natural to me that if I got injured, or if I was sick, or if I had dental needs or something like that, that I would go to see a doctor. It wasn't a big deal. Nobody talked about belt tightening or, anything like that. And then, I spent a long time in college because I went to grad school and I had medical coverage through the school. Then I left school and I went to work for Amazon.com, and I had medical coverage through Amazon.com, and that brings me basically through the age of 30. Yeah, 30. And then I'm off on my own. And at first I had money, so I just paid, whatever for medical care. Looking back on it, it was an absurd amount at the time. It was probably modest by today's standards. That was through Cobra. And that was basically it. Eventually I didn't have the money to pay for that. And then the sorts of work I was doing thereafter, contract work, sales work for insurance companies, podcasting work, it just didn't pay nearly enough, for me to even consider getting medical care for myself. And then I worked at Comcast for 2 years. And once again, working for a big company, I had medical coverage, which was great. I got surgery on my sinuses twice. I was there less than, how long was I there? Maybe a year and a half, a little less than a year and a half. Since then, I've been without. And there was a time a couple of years ago when I still had these teeth, but I had the infected, the massive ongoing infection in my, the roots of those teeth. It got really bad one time. I was in agony, and I knew, I had an infection. What I needed was antibiotics. And it was a weekend. The dentists were closed. And I could go to the emergency room. I don't know exactly, how much I would have gotten raked over the coals for. It depends, I suppose, where you are. But I just needed antibiotics, which were at the nearby pharmacy. In a rational world, I clearly have an infection. I'm in a lot of pain. I need relief. Those antibiotics are the relief. Give them to me. I will pay you a reasonable amount. But we don't live in a culture where that is reasonable and normal. We live in a culture where I'm supposed to go see some expert to whom I have to pay a huge amount of money because he pays a huge amount of money in insurance to protect him from lawsuits, him or her, or them. So, yay, there is high-tech medicine which is far more effective for those really, really rich people who can afford it, or that tier of people who work for the really, really rich people who have kick-ass insurance. But for everybody else, it might as well be an antibiotic pill that's on the frickin' moon. It's not available to normal people. All right, back in the apartment, and it is dark out. So from there, I went on kind of a class-based political diatribe. You've heard it before. Threatened to vote for Trump if there's a neoliberal Democrat's name on the ballot in opposition to him. Biotech. If it's straight up, like official medical, it will not be affordable by normal people anytime soon. But the technology is already outside of, the purview of big regulated laboratory settings. It is, there is certainly garage level biotechnology available. You can get into it for not too much money. And in other countries, the research will be less constrained. And yeah, I think there will be biotech life hacks that will be illegal. But anybody with any measure of ambition or any predilection toward, self-care is going to they're going to take advantage of it. Which kind of brings us back to the drug war. Even if marijuana is legal by then, if there's something, it will always be the case that there is something that is commonly practiced in the culture which is officially illegal so that everybody is a criminal. And even those people who aren't doing it, like not everybody smokes marijuana. Most people I know do, or at least have, but, some amazingly have the attitude that, it's the gateway to heroin and it's the demon weed with the roots in hell. And, people younger than me somehow manage to get those attitudes impressed into them. But even for people who don't smoke weed, the fact that weed exists means that you can be pulled over, you can have a cop make you get out of your car, put his hands on you, just demonstrate dominance over you, because there is such a thing as illegal drugs. And maybe you might have some. Got no evidence that you do, but, I don't have any evidence that you don't, so I'm just going to assume that you do, and that you're a criminal. Even if marijuana is legalized, even if, heroin and all synthetic, morphine type molecules are made legal, there will be something which is illegal and which is common enough that everybody is a suspect. And police technology is, mostly using the information, the algorithmic sort of technology that I normally focus on. But I can well imagine, biotech making inroads into police work, because that's a very lucrative marketplace. Police have a lot of money to spend. You ever notice cops driving around in, old rusty cop cars? No, they drive new cars. They drive new, powerful cars. Even in poor places, even in places where most people are driving old beat-up cars, the cops have new cars. So if there is some biotech gimmick that you can market to the police, they've got the money to buy it. It's a lucrative field. But your profits will come at the expense of everybody's liberty, which is so compromised at this point, it's pretty easy to justify, right? Liberty? What liberty? What are you talking about? Well, obviously, we still have some. As, there are young folks in Hong Kong waving U.S. flags. They recognize that they would much rather live under a system like ours than a system like the one that they already live under and will be integrated into within their lifetimes. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Stay well.